Hey, welcome everybody to AI News and Gurus, the show for intelligent distributors. We are very excited for today's show. We've got a really good show in store for you today, but before we get started into that, let me talk about a couple things we're really excited about. First and foremost, AI 2026 has officially launched. So this is the fourth conference that we've done with AI, and tickets will sell out early. It's going to be our strongest yet. And the reason really is very simple. AI has moved past that curiosity stage. It's moved past that experimental stage, and it's really becoming the way distributors do business today. So that's exactly how we've built this show, that you'll have the ability to see what's delivering results right now. How do you get better productivity gains, better customer experience, everything that will give you a real advantage from your competition. You're going to meet with over 30 technology companies who are already embedded in distribution now, producing results now across all aspects of the business with practical tools that are working today. And what I'm really excited about is we've added one additional element this year, and these are two hands-on workshops. One is really specifically designed about helping you build your roadmap for your specific company. And then the other one, we are going to be helping you build an AI agent in the moment, one that you can use and take back to your team. So we're really excited. Go to appliedforAIdistributors.com, click that QR code. This show will sell out, so please get your tickets early. The other one that we're excited about is our Distributor RX. And this is really three distinct tools that can help you with your business. The first one is customer experience, and hands down, it is the best survey tool out there in the market. You may be familiar with other tools that give you kind of a generic score, or they don't really know the distribution industry. This is made by distributors for distributors and tells you exactly where you're performing. It tells you exactly where you need to improve. So if you have an inventory problem in Phoenix or you have a customer service problem in Cincinnati, this is going to tell you exactly what's going on in your business from a customer experience. The next one is employee experience, and it's built on the exact same infrastructure. And we all know how valuable talent is and how hard it is to get and how hard it is to keep. This tells you exactly what you're doing well with your employees and exactly where you need to improve. So if you're looking to get excellent at your employee experience, this is the tool for you. And then the last one is not least for certain, it's Demand RX. And that really helps you in understanding where you're missing opportunities today. It's a tool that helps you estimate sales potential by account, by product line, and by branch. So you have the opportunity to see exactly where to focus your sales team and how to help them grow. So together, all three of those give you some pretty valuable insights on what to do, how to do it, and the action steps you need to take. So let's start bringing in my good friend Brooks. How you doing, man?
Hey, Brian.
It's
I'm
good to
doing
see
great.
you after this Thanksgiving.
Yeah, likewise. Likewise.
Life is good. The Chicago Bears are in first place, and Alabama's in the SEC championship. So I'm a happy guy.
Yep. Yep.
The world's
Not,
turned
not
upside down.
not quite as excited about the progress of my Longhorns, but
That's okay.
it's always another year.
What I am excited about is our first guest, man. Patricia with Google. I'm really excited. So Patricia Velasquez is joining us. Good to see you. How are you
Hello,
again?
hello, everyone. Happy to be here.
It's
Um,
Hey,
great to have you. And Patricia shared with us a couple weeks ago the report and the research that Google's been doing about the buyer journey. And Brooks and I immediately were like, we've got to get her on the show to talk, right? And see what's going on with Google. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the research, and we'll kind of talk to the audience about what you guys are finding.
Absolutely. I think I like to say that I have the best job here because I get to just comb over data and get a pulse on the market. My role basically hinges on keeping research, ongoing research on the B2B landscape, be it through e-commerce, technology, retail, distribution, and understand what's happening so we can better advise the partners that we work with on the B2B space. So it is a really enjoyable job for someone who considers themselves a data nerd like me.
That's awesome.
Oh, you're in good company there. We all enjoy that new data set smell.
Yeah.
Um, Patricia, I love this research. I thought it was very helpful to begin to understand how the buyer journey is changing right before our eyes. And could you tell us a little bit about like what was the impetus and the objective of the research as you began, that research journey?
We try to do research every year angled on different things of the B2B experience, whether it be from the B2B companies, from perhaps a marketer's perspective, or the B2B buyers. Last time we ran a research study that looked at the full journey, though,
Mhm.
the results are very different. So I'm very excited about this year's research because you can see the impact that AI is having much more than we had seen it a year and a half ago when it was still relatively new.
Yeah.
So the impetus was really to understand the role of AI and how that is shifting and impacting the B2B buying experience. When you're buying a business product or solution,
Yes.
how are you leveraging AI? How is it transforming the way you interact with
Mhm.
the provider?
Mhm.
And we're seeing that shift quite a bit. So I was very happy that we were able to focus in on and hone in on this in 2025.
Great. From a methodology perspective, was there a type of buyer in the B2B landscape you all were focused on, or was it a very broad set? How when we hear B2B buyer, how should we kind of think about this?
Yeah, we were very intentional about focusing on purchases that had happened within a certain amount of time. So
Okay.
recent purchases. So buyers who had completed a business purchase within an X amount of time. And that the reason for that is because the buying experience changes as
Mhm.
AI evolves. We wanted fresh perspectives of people who had actually leveraged this recently. So we were very intentional about screening in for that, for the research study. And we were also intentional about focusing on different segments. So it
Okay.
is not just, we always look at technology purchases, like I'm purchasing a
Sure.
software and whatnot,
Yeah.
but retail, e-commerce. We wanted to see how those separate segments were interacting with AI and media touchpoints at all.
Yeah, I think one thing that we find, or that I at least find really helpful when looking at research that's either examining tech buying behavior or other kind of more, as I think is like more progressive industries, to me, that's really helpful for the distribution perspective because it's an early indicator of what's going on in other industries, and then we can give some thought to how is this going to be applied within our industry and practices. So, you all did a wonderful job of having a broad perspective, and I think about some of these findings as being, really
Yeah.
applicable. What did you all see in terms of how the process of buying is beginning to change, or especially like that research portion of it is
Mhm.
beginning to shift?
One of the biggest findings that we had is, think about it. When did we all start using AI? It was a relatively recent shift that we have been doing in our professional lives or in our
Mhm.
personal lives. Um, we have seen business transactions and business purchases be a little bit more static, and they simply don't change as fast as our behaviors. But at the end of the day, we're all human, and even in our business and professional lives, we integrate AI. The biggest finding that we had, and it shouldn't be a surprise, was that 60% of buyers are using AI as part of
Wow.
their journey, which is a significant amount. Over
Astounding.
half they're using it at given points. Either they start with asking a simple question, or they narrow down options. They help discover. It helps them discover new potential products that they had
Yeah.
not even thought about. So the fact that
Yeah.
60% are using AI as part of their journey is a significant finding. There's
Yeah.
another part that I found completely fascinating, and it was the shortened period that it takes to make a decision.
Okay.
From inspiration, from the time, or not even inspiration, from the time that you identify a need
Hmm.
to make a purchase. The fact that now with AI is helping shrink that time frame quite significantly. Now, think about if I'm a large enterprise and I have a large buying committee, for example, that used to take me, let's say, around 31 to 32 weeks.
Okay.
Now that's getting down to 12 weeks. The thing is, we're seeing that timeline shrink across the board, not just for the buying process, but for every single decision, even for discovery. It's easier for me to discover a new product.
Mm-hmm.
So the AI is just allowing buyers and everyone who is making a purchase decision just be more efficient and more timely in making that next step and pulling that trigger.
Did the respondents provide some color in terms of, hey, we were able to get to decision more quickly? Was it because that they were able to inform their peers more easily of the options and trade-offs? Was it that they were able themselves to get their kind of heads around what the options were and felt like they had a broader set? I'm really curious about, though, how what the contributing factors were to shortening these decision cycles.
I think it was two core things. The first one, and we did a number of in IDIs interviews in order for us to unpack this a little bit more.
Hmm.
And it was the fact that it served as a thought companion
Okay.
to quickly
Mm-hmm.
vet, rather than reach out to my
Yeah.
colleague who perhaps has used this product and
Right.
maybe they'll get back to me about this question. I have someone now that can just quickly give me th- the three key points, the three solid
Mm-hmm.
points as to why I should adopt this, why I should purchase this, um, and the flags. Here are the red flags. This is potentially this is something that would cause friction in the implementation process or whatnot.
Yes.
Um, so the speed at which you can get answers. So that's one of them. The other one is just removing the noise. There's a lot that you can potentially find if you simply type a generic set of numbers or generic description of a product that you want. And it just allows them to remove the noise if you are able to give them a really good prompt. So
Yeah.
that was removing the noise and simplifying, and also just the speed at which you can get results.
So the
Yeah.
kind of that focus of, all right, I'm not going to get distracted by going around to the Teams page to find out who's part of this. No, 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 no. I'm just going to be focused on
Yeah.
what the product is. I get good synthesis of it, and it takes me far less time to get to the prepared synthesis point
Mhm.
instead of having to kind of bounce around and maybe have a dissimilar information experience on one vendor's website versus another. So it really speeds that whole information gathering and synthesis process, it sounds like.
Absolutely. It just provides a lot of clarity and focus.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think it has a lot of implications, right? We did our state of e-commerce research last, about a month ago or so, and one of the things that was clearly missing was that whole GEO side of things, right? I mean, distributors have forever focused on SEO, and
Mhm.
that game is changing rapidly, right? If you're not in that search, to your point, I'm going to ask my intent to a large language model to get an answer. If you're not in that,
Mhm.
that's going to be a problem. So how would you talk to distributors about making that mind shift from strict SEO to make sure GEO captures, what they do?
I think the one thing that I hear time and time again is this people are scared. I think a lot of businesses are scared of just not showing up. And at the end of the day, the way that these AI companions, AI tools work is by getting data that is already online. So one of the things that we always like to highlight is SEO core practices and best practices are still the gold standard, because if
Mhm.
that is not okay, then you are
Yeah.
not going to be showing up in GEO. So and time and time again, what we find is that we have really sophisticated marketers in business roles that are ensuring that you're showing up in the right places, but the SEO is not, it's not there. So if the SEO is in a good place, your GEO will be fed the right information.
To Brian, maybe you should define that GEO term.
Yeah, I mean that's any of the generative AI tools that people use to get questions answered, whether that's ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity. A lot of those, it's what do I type in?
Yep.
What is my intent to find whatever it is I'm looking for? And then how does that result then show up? So if you
Yeah.
if you don't have good data, to your point, Patricia, you're not going to get a result. That's going to bypass you and go to somebody else who's got better data.
I have seen so many businesses, large enterprises even, that have really sophisticated advertising apparatuses, and
Hmm.
yet stale pages that have information that is
Yeah.
just from 3 years ago, that is simply not going to be served because of the amount of stale information that is still on their sites. And if that's the stale information that is going to be fed into these models, then that is going to provide inaccurate information in the output when these buyers are using the AI tools. So
Yeah.
that is an incredibly important, often, very often overlooked
Mm.
step that I just see time and time again.
Yeah, there were several pieces you mentioned in or that were in the research that I thought was really interesting of um, during the search process and I mean the initial discovery researching process that these buyers are going through. It seemed like there were two or three main benefits that they were describing in terms of how they were using it. And one of them was certainly like surfacing new potential vendors or new options. We've been direct beneficiaries of it. Our firm doesn't have a sophisticated marketing approach, but there have been several firms that have reached out to us saying, "Hey, we discovered you when we were doing a search on a answer engine optimization, a chatbot, and you all came up in addition to the regular player." So that was a surprise for us. It was, of course, really nice, but it really also highlighted to me of there may be more and relevant search result options or vendor options that come up as part of this process, which I think really highlights and underscores the point you were making previously of you might have some really sophisticated outbound approaches, but your organization is being evaluated, whether you know it or not, by AI mechanisms that are going to understand whether or not, by the information you've provided, whether you're a good fit for that particular search. Were there other benefit types or types of tasks that they found really helpful?
One of the things, and kudos to you, because if you showed up in those results, as you are hearing from partners, is because you've done the work. You've done the work. The
Did the work.
information that you have out there is accurate, is relevant, and it's being served because of that.
Yeah.
I will say that the benefits that we see more and more is simply we see a lot of buyers start with an idea of the provider that they want.
Hmm.
We call this the day one list. This is a brand I trust. This is a brand I've heard about. What we're seeing is that while that is it still holds true, people
Hmm.
start with an idea in mind of perhaps I'll explore this vendor or this other one. The benefit of AI is that it's giving a chance to the ones that aren't necessarily the big name brands yet, because it does level the playing field. If
Hmm.
you have the right product and fit for the type of query that someone is making, you will show up. So I do think that it's giving opportunity for more mid-sized players that aren't necessarily household names and big name brands to show up. And I do think that that is something that kept coming up in the discovery phase, specifically when you're starting to use it,
Yeah.
perhaps an AI tool to give me the options I have, and a vendor that perhaps you hadn't heard about shows up, and it opens a little bit of possibilities for shifting. And that shift, I don't know if we're going to get into this, but I do want to highlight that one of the things that we discovered in the research was that over half, actually 58% of buyers had switched vendors in the last 6 months.
Wow.
And that is huge, because it's the idea of stickiness. We often think about, once you make a business purchase, it's just easier to just continue and repurchase with the same vendor. But the idea that over half of the over 2,000 buyers that we surveyed said that they had switched of vendors in the last 6 months, that's it just presents a really real opportunity for the ones who want to grow and get market share, because clearly there's opportunity, but there's also there's churn that we need to be aware of in the space. So and AI is allowing for evening that playing field, because it's giving opportunities for different vendors to perhaps get that share, get that switch.
I think that's really fascinating. Some of the things that come up for me as from the perspective of a distributor who is trying to break into that market, or make sure that they're included in this. Um, some are going to be searching for, tell me about companies in a specific area. But many other of these searches are going to be like, this is the product, or this is the description of the product that I'm looking for. I might not know the name, the serial number, or whatnot, but I can describe it. And so, one of the great aspects that we have with generative AI is semantics. As long as we can semantically match the meaning of things, we can get there. But this places also a bit of a burden, perhaps, on those organizations that are providing that product information. That, as you mentioned earlier, it shouldn't be stale, and it should also be complete enough so that the meaning can be matched with the intent of the searcher, the intent of that buyer. So I think that really underscores the need for good product information, making sure that product information is served up on the website in a discoverable manner, and that there's an understanding that this and the company in general are going to be evaluated by AI as it's assembling those search results.
And that's not a bad thing. The fact that it's going to be evaluated by AI, it's not a bad thing at all. I actually think one is a push for everyone in the space to go back and look through the content, the information, the FAQs that they have. I remember when we were starting to build chatbots, and you would just feed the FAQ page first, and from that you started adding on to it and add the personality and the tone, and so it would stand out. But I also think that it allows us to take ownership. it's going to happen anyway. AI models are going to be surfacing information one way or the other through your own company created chatbot or through the platforms that are already out there. It's about just taking ownership and ensuring that what it goes out there is the right information that you want to get served.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, in terms of processes that distributors are also going to go through when they're not the seller, but they're the buyer. I don't know about you, Brian, but like non-stock comes to mind. These are, of course, products which I don't typically stock, but someone's asked me to go research and potentially go buy. Well, I probably want to go augment my current process, which is likely a search engine process, with
Right.
a generative AI process, which I probably want to spend a little bit of time thinking about how to refine the prompting on that, um, but also make sure that I am getting a full set of results, a full set of vendor options, and they're well considered. So I kind of think about that being a point where this research is particularly applicable within distribution on the procurement side rather than
Yeah, no
on
doubt.
the sales side. Uh,
We have a question from the audience. It's a good one, and it's around agentic capabilities. So, was there any indication from the buyers in your research that agentic, such as AI booking or sending an inquiry, or even directly buying products, does that feel like that's part of the research? What did you learn from that, if anything?
Yeah, no, that's definitely it was part of the research that we looked at. One of the things that came up again and again is how helpful having that type of AI workflow and AI companion in the purchase process for buyers specifically, how helpful that was. But I will say that as helpful as they found it, I remember quite vividly in some of these in-depth interviews, um, purchasers telling us AI gets me 60-70% of the way there, which is fantastic. It saves me so much time. I find the flows really helpful. But it doesn't do it all. I still go in and I still
Yeah.
evaluate it. There's the human element there, which I think was quite a fascinating finding because while generative AI continues to play a bigger role, um, the human element is anchoring even stronger in a way. It's highlighting the need for reviews. The individual
Yeah.
buyer will go back in and put the human touch and a human element. It's not that it's automating and displacing the buyer itself. It's actually enhancing the process for them to hone in and be able to make a more human decision, very informed human decision.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love
trust.
the points that the research made of this really helped us compress and enrich the discovery process and the searching process. But then there were two other points which were I want to go ahead and validate using primary sources as much as possible. And then I also want to exercise my agency as a human
Yeah.
of I then want to select the one that is most applicable and go through that kind of an authenticity check
Mhm.
as well, which I thought was, fascinating considering at one point we're saying, here's how AI is becoming much more important in the process, but also,
But
so it's
yeah,
authenticity and agency.
Yes. Well,
yeah,
and
it's
I think that's actually one of the best parts that we uncovered in the research, and it's that um, the agency and the human element that each of us, if I'm putting my buyer hat on, bring is not being displaced. And actually, for vendors, for a vendor side, when you get that website visit afterwards, after it's already vetted and honed in by the AI search, what we're seeing is that the traffic that then goes to the sites is higher value because I'm not simply clicking because I'm trying to discover. I've already vetted in a way, at least preliminarily, the preliminary vetting here of a product that I could potentially purchase. So that's why I think that AI is actually helping generative AI. The results that you get are helping guide buyers into a more intentional purchase process when they then go to the vendor's website, because they're already going in informed rather than just simply discovering.
Yeah. So higher value interaction afterwards for both parties.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That's fascinating. That's really fascinating. Patricia, I'm thrilled that you all did this research, that you're sharing
Yeah.
this research. It gives us a lot to think about how we want to modify and refine our processes and approaches in the industry.
I am so happy that it's been helpful I want everyone to go in and take a look. It is quite fascinating. If you're a B2B data nerd like I am, please go in and check it out. And I'm very happy that this is also going to inform the distribution space, because ultimately everything that we see in the B2B buyer space ends up rippling. So absolutely happy to be here.
We had a lot of questions about, is this research going to be shared? So we'll send out a link to all the audience members to that research, so you have that separately in this call. Patricia, you were amazing. Thank you for joining us. We really look forward to seeing what Google's got coming up next.
Wonderful. Thanks for the invite. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
You too. Take care. All right, we are going to shift now from the kind of big picture things to more what is happening within distribution, what specific things are going on within distribution that can help us. So we want to welcome to the audience both Jared Schulman and Jerry Hsu from Daylit. Welcome, fellas. How are you?
Ryan, Brooks, nice to see you. How you guys doing?
Guys.
We're doing excellent. We just had a really fascinating discussion with Google about the buyer behavior and what's changing there. And, you guys play one of the most pivotal roles in distribution, and that is, how do we collect the money? How do we get paid on time? Right? Because that's one of the things that we're all up against in this level. So why don't you take a few minutes, introduce yourselves, introduce your company, and then we can kind of get into some specifics about what it is you do and how you do it.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much. As an aside, I heard, Brian, you mention that you're a Chicago Bears fan. So I see an extra big smile. I'm a Detroit Lions fan. We weren't as excited about Thanksgiving, but that's okay. Lots of excitement here. So really nice to meet everyone, and thanks for the time. Our company is called Daylit. We build AI agents for accounts receivable. We've been in business for going on 3 years now. We recently raised a venture round, $110 million, to roll out these new products and basically progress against our mission, which is very simple. And you mentioned at the top, we just want every invoice paid on time. That's the name of the game, especially in distribution. It sounds simple. Turns out it's not so simple. And so that's what we're after. And that's how we can, that's what we'll be here to discuss today.
From the technology perspective, we really building this AI agents for business accounts receivable. So we'll dive into detail later in the interview, but basically how can we streamline the workflow, so both for the CFOs and the AR managers to really have an easier life and then get the money collected kind of as fast as possible.
Paid faster.
If you can make the CFO have an easier life, that's like gold in distribution. They can stay off your back.
Totally. We were shocked. I mean, when we started out on this journey, we knew that, especially in distribution, that getting paid timely was an issue. There's about 25 billion invoices that get sent out every year. In fact, if there are any Seinfeld fans out there, we always like to say, anyone can just send an invoice, right? Anyone can send it. It's collecting the invoice. That's perfect. The challenge. And something like 50% of invoices are late. Every year. In fact, just throughout this podcast, there will be about 1 million invoices that are marked late, just in this 1 hour or so. And so it's a massive problem. There's a lot of work to be done, but AI can be a huge help to what has become just a massive, really frankly annoying problem that CFOs have to deal with.
Yeah, no doubt. So that's great. And part of what we want to do in this segment of the show is really highlight what you guys are doing specifically within distribution. So can you kind of walk us through kind of an example or a use case that you've had, kind of a before and after, about how that went? And we can talk a little bit more about the specifics, but really understanding how a distributor has used this is really important.
Yeah. Maybe actually for starters, we'll just share like the two main reasons why these invoices are late, which sounds really simple, but we talked to thousands of these companies, served hundreds of distributors and businesses that are selling B2B, and it really comes down to just two things: excuses and money. There are always excuses on why you can't get paid, and sometimes they're valid and legitimate, and other times they're a little bit more manufactured. And sometimes there's just not money to get the transaction through. And so that was what Daylit was founded on. We use AI to predict the excuses and, most importantly, help you respond to those excuses. And in the event that money is holding up the transaction, we have a lending facility. We have capital that can get injected into the transaction. And so we look to address the excuses and the money.
Yes. So you have to kind of dive deeper in that note, so we're really helping kind of two parties here, right? One is the CFO, one is the boots on the ground, the AR managers. So for the CFO, what matters is what's going on, right? The bigger picture, what's going on, which client is paying us on time, which client is kind of trembling, might be leaving, not happy about our service, which client might have issues with their own liquidity that we probably need to stay away, right? So those are essential intelligence that CFO needs to know. And it's hard for them to know because being a mid-market distributor, you have hundreds of clients, hundreds of thousands of invoices. It takes a lot of energy and time. Like the AR meeting is not enough. So the first thing our tool does is actually help you identify the behavior of different customer, and then they will be all showcasing one nicely organized dashboard together with communication summaries. That's the communication your sales team communicate with the clients, the back and forth between the AR team and the customer. So all of these are centralized in one spot for you as a CFO to quickly glimpse through and know what's going on, what action needs to be taken. So that's kind of part one, really trying to help out for the CFOs. The second part is the AR managers. Now, great, CFO identify the issue, right? So there is 80 follow-up we need to do. Great. Now for the AR person, what does that mean? It means, hey, I'm gonna take 3 days of my time, go to different vendor portal, go to different, pull different, disputes, resources, communication histories, and really consolidate each scenario, draft an email, include certain information that always repeating, right? Like what's the credit usage? What is the a payment plan, right? All of that. And every single email can take sometimes an hours to prepare. So with that 80 follow-ups, what does that mean? It means like 3 days of work. So what AI does is what we build is by connecting to your emails, your ERP, your CRM, we automatically extract those contexts and really prepare the first draft for you. So you can just literally send out after approve the context. So that our goal is, hey, for the 80 follow-ups, we have the list all there, and Monday morning, come into the office, click, right? In 10 minutes, finish all these follow-ups. So then, you can spend more time on more valuable tasks. So that's where really how we see it, helping the CFOs and helping the AR kind of boots on the ground.
Exactly right. Yeah.
I can see that as tremendously helpful for those roles. I also see this as something to consider if I'm a salesperson. Hopefully it's as that information about this is certain customer behavior that we're seeing now, perhaps that can get surfaced into other sales surface focused areas about how maybe the transaction that I'm about to go do, I want to make sure to get paid for it when the money comes in. Oh boy, I don't want to fall back here.
Yeah, I'm sure plenty are all too familiar, sadly, with the commission clawback. And it's actually really interesting. You asked for an example. We can talk a little bit broadly on customer use case, but high level, just some data that we're always, I don't know if happy to share, but we gladly share. Maybe it's tough to hear, but the average mid-sized distributor is spending about $500,000 a year just in accounts receivable. It's across 3 different areas. There's just the manual effort to go ahead and collect all of that. There's a ton of time, usually a handful of accounts receivable specialists or collections folks that are just triaging these, we call it excuses. There's bad debt, which may be a small part of the portfolio, but it's still a real part. I mean, every year businesses write off 15, 25 basis points, and it's from not catching them early. And then the last piece is a little bit more of an implicit cost, but it's just the opportunity cost of your capital. If your capital is sitting out there waiting to get collected, that's less money to redeploy. Look, we just had Patricia from Google on. There's a lot of work that we could all use to update our content, to think about marketing. And when money is sitting out there in accounts receivable, there's an opportunity cost. And so what our platform does is shrink your AR cost by about 75% and speed up your DSO by 15 to 20 days. And that's the platform that we've built. I want to get into a little bit more details, especially on how people are redeploying resources and what's happening. But that's a high level. Brooks, I see a hand.
Would you mind just doing a quick term definition for our audience on DSO?
Absolutely, yeah. So DSO is the days sales outstanding. You can think of it as the number of days that it takes to send that invoice out to actually go ahead and collect it. A lot of people use like simple heuristics or simple math. They say, hey, I'm giving my portfolio about net 60, so my DSO is around net 60. Turns out that that's not always the case. In fact, we usually see something between like a 30 and 40% lift on what your net terms are compared to your DSO. These are slow payers. They're the draggers. Everyone on the call has at least a handful and maybe a couple dozen of those customers that are constantly pushing things out. And, we actually think it's funny. Patricia mentioned, which I thought was a really great stat. She said, hey, something like 30 weeks, which is the typical time it takes to make a product decision, is shrinking now to 12 weeks because AI is coming in and it's helping us make faster decisions. Sadly, and we've already started to see some evidence of this, the time it takes to get paid is actually going to increase. And AI is, at least somewhat, I don't know if it's to blame, but at least somewhat involved. You can think about these accounts payable teams are becoming supercharged. They have their own tools and they're, not always your friends. They're looking to catch these, slight nuances, these misses, portal errors. They now have a lot more resources to catch all of that. And so the time to get paid is actually going up, even though the time to make those decisions are going down.
That's the generative adversarial network approach of it's like we see this and like I've worked on both the procurement side and the pricing side, and it's interesting to see like one will get a tool and the other one will get another tool to combat the first tool. So this is evolving, but I think it's an important point that you can't just assume that the processes that were used 5 years ago are applicable today because your counterparties are using different tool sets now.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, we hear from AR specialists all the time, the AR managers that, responding to these emails are almost like drinking through a fire hose. And we think, and what we've started to see is that with these AI tools in the accounts payable department, the incremental cost to send an email to ask you to update something is basically zero. And that will, the fire hose is only cranking up a little bit. And so you really, our early adopters of this tool, have really found some benefit in counteracting the AI, we don't know if it's and we know we're speaking kind of jokingly, the adversary quite yet, but it certainly can be, especially when you're trying to get paid.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I'm curious, what are the biggest surprises that you've heard from distributors as you've implemented and you've kind of worked this through your system? What are the things that pop up that like, wow, I didn't expect this, or what have you seen?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think there's probably a couple of dimensions, right? Like starter from the CFO level. A lot of time they will just like literally tell us, hey, every day I need to read through 300 emails just to know what's going on, right? And we're like, your job is to make more strategic decision for the business, not to be an investigator or a detective to go through all the email just to kind of be on top of all the information flow. So that's where, hey, now you don't need to read that. Just glimpse through this little 2 columns and you know what's going on for all of your 40 clients. Like that's, I think, a big value adding for our CFOs. I think, Brooke, you mentioned like the sales folks. I think it's a very interesting component like in the whole AR game. On the one hand, it's, hey, they're just bringing revenue. So how is they are involved in AR? But actually, for all the distributors we spoke to, what happened is if the AR person cannot collect, usually the next person in line is a salesperson go and try to collect.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of back and forth, a lot of information gets missed. Like AR person chasing the salespeople, like salespeople, why should I get involved, right? I'm the relationship manager. So what like our tool does is actually present all of these information, like context, into like very nicely summarized manner and then share internally so that every single sales call kind of for AR purposes are recorded, or the AR person outreach to the customers, all these information are shared across the team. So that's actually another area like people really like it, is because, hey, now I'm not in the silo, not only like a silo system, but me as my job function used to be a silo. Now I feel there's more collaboration. So that's another value adding. We feel like, hey, well, glad that we're helpful, like using these like context tool to help the business out.
Totally.
Yeah, so you all are really like decreasing the cognitive load for a number of roles.
Yeah.
It's like for salesperson, I don't know how to write these emails. I don't know how to do this. You tell them, this is what you say. For the CFOs, I don't have to go look through 300 emails. Here is the state of things. For AR, I know what the excuses are that are coming. Here's my comeback. And then there's also here's another way to pay. That I think that's a fantastic usage.
Yeah. And I think like a big part, the way that we almost personify it is a lot of these excuses or the statuses, they almost live on like a sticky note. You can just picture the AR desk and there's all these sticky notes. And so now, Brooks, you're a salesperson for, the company and you have to go collect, like, what do I even say? Okay, like, yeah, sure, pay us, but like, what's the holdup? What's going on? And that's really what the platform does, is it takes those sticky notes and we bring them to the platform so that they're in bite-sized pieces to get context.
So that leads me to a question about involving the people in the work, right? So the people who do the work know the most about it. So how do you take, the sticky note excuses that people have on their desk and translate that into your system? And how do you involve those people in developing the system?
That's a great one. So I think our model is very simple, right? We want to save people time. We want to make sure life easy so that you can go home early, eat dinner with your family, right? So, but then how can we do that? What that like means via technology lens? It's really a couple folds. What we found, for example, for the AR folks, one of the biggest challenge is to get information together, and then there's a repeating items they constantly need to look up and pull from different systems, like these payment snippets, these payment information, the company information, vendor information. These are repeating items that we actually find a way to automatically pull from different systems. So like grasp all this information in our system and then present it right where people needs it. I think that's probably one of the most kind of time saving for our folks. The second one is almost like a quality guarantee. You can imagine, hey, when you hire CFO, you hire your AR person, the quality ranges, right? Can be as a smart high school grad or to all the way might be a PhD interested in get their hands dirty. So the AI actually provides a good quality check, as you said. Hey, as a salesperson, I'm great at relationship management, but I'm just not good at writing an email or chasing account payments. Like how do I even phrase a tone, right? So our tool that's really kind of bringing the expertise, kind of co-pilot with you. You have your own strength. We kind of bring in the other strength that you not necessarily have, but kind of essential for certain job function, like right there for you. So that actually, I think, helps a lot of businesses. Hey, what does that mean to be supercharged? Really is you have your domain expertise and we overlay with other domain expertise so that you get supercharged. I think that's another way we really try to help people saving time. And a third one, which is also an interesting one, is we hear a lot of businesses have call it like bad debt, and it's not like they don't know about it. It just takes so much time to synthesize all the information, to get all the email history, to get all the invoice history together, send to a collection agency, send to a lawyer. It's tons of work, and they just don't have the bandwidth to do it. What we are really good at is it's a very simple thing for AI to dig into your inbox, to dig into your ERP system, just get all the track record together and present a story so that the pre-drafted story we'll share with the lawyer directly. And it's just easy as that. So kind of that's 3 examples just to share like the essence of engaging people is we want to save people time, and that's how we do it.
And I want to just add one last thing, because you asked a great question, which is like, are there any surprises? I want to get my little surprises. My favorite one, and it was actually relevant. Patricia mentioned this. So we got a call from a CFO a couple weeks ago, I think. And he said, well, love the platform. I go, great. Tell me why. He goes, my accounts receivable specialist got us a Google review. And okay, how did you get a Google review? Well, it turns out that most of her time was spent prior to Daylit just chasing these emails and spending all this time trying to coordinate, keep track of. And so, okay, now I have extra time in my day. On a phone call, it's no longer reactive. Hey, come and pay me. It's proactive. They almost felt filled the position of customer success. And so I thought that was like a nice way to sort of, we talk a lot about all of the time that you can save and where all of your time is maybe being like, spent a little bit too much, but it's really like, what is the benefit of freeing up that time? And it's more time spent on just value creation, the Google reviews. Example.
I know we need to get to wrap, but I'd love at some point if we can have a conversation again about how we see the role of the AR professional beginning to shift into, now that I don't have to spend so much email tracking everything downtime, what am I beginning to spend time on? Because we know that there's training, there's certifications, there is deep experience in this area of things people would like to go do if they didn't have to spend their time chasing emails. So I hope we can in the future have a conversation about where do we see this going. But this has been really revealing about how we can use this technology set to get people doing the job in the times expected and getting clearly better outcomes.
Absolutely. Well, we really appreciate you both having us. Really enjoyed the program, and happy holidays.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. All right. One last thing for the audience before you go. We've got 2 great programs coming up tomorrow. Actually, Ian Heller will be on the horn with Mike Herder, the VP of Supply Chain at Infor, and Chase Eldridge at Powerfleet, talking about what's changing in warehouse and logistics technology. That is changing very rapidly in distributors, and these guys are going to talk to us about what's going on there. And then the next one after that on December the 10th, and this is really a good one. It's how mid-sized distributors can leverage the technology to really compete with the big guys. So we'll have Jeff Van Pelt from Cognitus, and Epicor will be on that as well. So do not miss those. Sign up now. Thanks for everybody's time today, and hope you had a good show, and we'll talk to you all real soon. See you, Brooks.